Tuesday, January 16th. I'm Scott.
And I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we tell you all about Blokus.
Let's do this.
Now, some people around the world live in a place where video games are easy to come by. You know, there's like an eBay right next door to their house, or there are 5 different stores selling video games within spitting distance. Some people live in parts of the country where you're lucky if you can find a video game store at all. I mean, I remember when we were in Wildwood at the time that Advance Wars DS came out.
God.
And we had to drive how far to go to the only EB within range.
Yep, I remember we then bought pretty much every copy of the game the guy had.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't only the only EB within range. It was the only video game selling store. It was kind of crazy.
Well, there was that Target or whatever, Kmart,
Yeah.
whatever it was, but they don't really have launch games on launch day.
No, they don't. So, you know, this week, there are 2 very important video games coming out. There is WarioWare Wii is coming out in the U.S. Some of these games are already out elsewhere.
Bastards.
WarioWare Wii is coming out this week.
You can consider that Rim's most anticipated game of 2007.
And Scott's most anticipated game of 2007, Phoenix Wright 2, Justice for All, is coming out.
It's a good time to be alive, and it's a good time to have a Wii and a DS.
Yep. So, you know, it takes us how long to go down to the GameStop? I mean, there's a bunch of video game stores here, but they're not right next to our house. We have to drive at least 10, 15 minutes to get to one.
Whoa, lordy, 10 minutes, whatever will I do?
You know, the other thing is, not only do I have to drive 10, 15 minutes to get to one, but it's sort of a pain in the ass. And, you know, doing the show and doing stuff on the weekends, I don't have a lot of time to go down there just to buy a video game.
Well, see, it's not just that. In general, I more and more really dislike going to normal stores to buy normal things. If only there were a way I could, without leaving the comfort of my desk, ask other people to get these things for me in exchange for money and deliver them to my door.
Oh, well, you know, I used to, when I worked in the city, go to the GameStop that was right near the office.
As one would.
Yes, but now I kind of gave up on that. And for the first time ever, I bought some video games on Amazon.
See, this all started, this whole saga of us not needing to go to game stores anymore, way back when I was buying stuff on Amazon. And I thought, well, I'm buying stuff anyway. I might as well buy as much stuff as I can to get the free shipping, whatever. And on a lark, I decided to type in the name of some DS games. And they were selling them pretty cheap. In many cases, far less than I would have paid for them in a game store, especially games that weren't the newest games anymore. And even the newest games are usually like $5 off.
No, the newest games are, you know, at least Wario and Phoenix Wright were like a few cents off.
Yeah, but Portrait of Ruin was $6 off.
Yep. Depends on the game. It's kind of random.
Yeah, but
the best thing is if you pre-order and the price goes down between the time of your pre-order and the time they ship it to you, then you get the lower price.
But the thing is, the price is never more than you would pay in a GameStop or an EB.
Nope.
So in this day and age, I think we've come to the conclusion that, at least for new games, as opposed to used games, there is no reason to get games from anywhere other than Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you get the free shipping, and as long as you don't have a desperate need to have the game right now. I mean, I'm not going to get these games. These games come out tomorrow and the next day. I'm not going to get them, you know, I'll be lucky if I get them on Friday. You know, I'll probably expect to get them on Monday, maybe even later than that. I think the expected delivery date that it says on Amazon is Wednesday. So, you know, the next Wednesday, not 2 days from now, or I guess tomorrow, or whenever you're listening to
They're
this.
not going to be here real soon.
No, they're not. So, you know, I'm willing to suffer that because right now I've got more entertainment than I have time to consume. So getting a video game like Wario or Phoenix Wright, which doesn't sort of have a time need on it, a week later, not a big deal. I'm willing to suffer in order to not have to leave my house and waste my time. So we'll see how this works. And, yeah, it could be cool. It could suck. We'll let you know.
So, in actual gaming news, this came as kind of a blindside to me for a number of reasons. Because, you see, every year for the last many years, I've attended Ubercon. Last year, I decided to bring other people along with me, and every year it seems like more and more people come, because Ubercon is probably one of the best gaming conventions anywhere near us. Well, the thing about Ubercon is that they always had 2 a year. There was one in the fall, just before winter, and one in the spring, just after winter.
Yeah.
So you kind of begin the gaming season being the time you can't go outside, with the gaming con. And then at the end of gaming season, you have one final fling before you go back out into that horrible dread sun.
I think it's also kind of necessary for gaming cons because when you're at a gaming con, unlike other cons, the activities, the individual activities at gaming cons tend to take many, many hours.
Yes, I mean,
so at one individual gaming con, even though there are the same number of hours in, say, Ubercon as there are in Otakon, you don't feel like you did as much because you only played in like one RPG and you played 10 board games and that was it.
Yep.
And you feel kind of like, and you paid a lot of money for it. So having 2 gaming cons, is kind of a bonus.
Yeah, you get to spend twice as much money.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, all of you out there who go to gaming cons, I mean, gaming cons are very different from anime cons. I like both equally.
Mm-hmm.
We
should pick a new gaming con.
I think we should. Well, we're going to have to because, you see, Ubercon, for various reasons, has been forced to cancel this year's spring Ubercon due to, I think, scheduling concerns. It hasn't been made 100% clear as to exactly why, but I imagine they couldn't get the dates.
Yeah. Well, those guys were never the most super organized con.
See, that is the one thing about gaming cons as opposed to anime cons. If an anime con isn't run absolutely wonderfully by the staff, it will fall apart in about 7 minutes.
Yep.
Gamers, I'm not going to say gamers are better than anime fans or vice versa, but gamers tend to really want to play their games, and gamers tend to self-organize. If you
just have a gaming con and all you do is get a bunch of gamers in a big room with enough tables, they'll play games on their own and you don't have to do so much.
Yeah. In fact, RIT was a good example of that. There was the Anime Club, which had a large board of very dedicated directors who did constant effort to make the club better and get people to come and make it an awesome time. And any time they made a mistake, club didn't work out at all. People would just be like, what's going on, and leave. The gaming club was run by a bunch of incompetents, to put it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
There were times when I was never really sure if it was actually a club anymore. But it didn't matter because they provided a room and 100 to 200 people would show up every Tuesday and play games all night.
Yeah, I think it really has to do with the nature of the individual hobbies. I mean, anime is so passive compared to gaming. People just sit there. So if they are coming to some sort of club, someone has to do something, because if not, everyone else will just sit there waiting for something to happen.
Yep, or
whereas
possibly
with gaming, people are coming to something to do something, and they got it on their mind. I'm going to play this game. And whether anything happens or not, if there are other human beings there willing to join in, they will, if Ubercon canceled and 10 guys still showed up anyway, they would get rooms in the hotel and play board games on those tables in the hotel rooms, or set up a little campaign and play the whole weekend.
Well, because of this, Ubercon looks like they're going to expand, because Ubercon, as far as I can tell, has been very successful.
Yeah, they definitely need a little bigger main room and
they're not expanding in New Jersey.
Ah.
You see, since they can't have their normal spring Ubercon this year, instead they have announced Ubercon Great Lakes 1, which is going to be held in Livonia, Michigan, March 30th through April 1st, 2007.
I'm guessing that's just more convenient for some of the people running Ubercon who probably are living out there.
Well, I think this is going to be very interesting. I mean, the first convention I ever went to, period, gaming con, whatever, was a gaming con called Michicon in Detroit. It was somewhere. I don't actually remember where it was. I was too young to even know where my dad drove me, other than it was about 45 minutes away. But I can tell you that in Michigan and in the Midwest in general, there is a lot of gaming, and there are a lot of little gaming cons. And I think that this is like the Roman army marching into Gaul and setting up a little encampment. I think Ubercon Great Lakes is going to do really well. Livonia is easy to get to.
Yeah, Penguicon is out there.
Yeah, in Novi.
Yep.
But Livonia is easy to get to from pretty much anywhere in the Midwest. In fact, if we lived in Rochester, I would very much be inclined to go to this Ubercon.
Yeah. I think it's just too far away for us.
Yeah,
now.
I'm not driving 9 hours.
There's enough gaming cons around here that I think we can replace spring Ubercon with a different gaming con. Maybe pick up 2 gaming cons. Who knows?
Yep. Now, of course, they're still in the planning stages. They're looking for guests. They're looking for all sorts of stuff. So to all our listeners in the Midwest, go to the Ubercon website, ubercon.com, and check this out. Ubercon is a great con, and I almost guarantee you won't be disappointed.
If you like gaming. If you don't like gaming, don't go.
If you don't like gaming, why are you listening to Tuesday Geeknights?
Well, it could be just video game fans. Ubercon is very light on the video games. They got them, but not much.
Yeah, of course, they always have the Guitar Heroes and the DDR.
Yep, and they have a little LAN party.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have a gaming news, because I already talked about how I'm buying Wario and Phoenix Wright. I'm going to talk about a news that I should have talked about yesterday, but I didn't know it until today. So tough shit. One of the best books ever is Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson.
It's a really good book.
It's real good. You should read it. If you haven't read it, go read it.
The
Right
gods conspired to force Scott to read it.
Yeah, it was real good too.
And finally, he basically told all of us, all right, you jackasses, I'm finally going to read this book so you'll shut up. And then he said, oh.
That was a good book. Well, I've always thought that it should be made into like a really good movie or like a 26-episode show or something like that, because it could be pulled off really well if done right. Well, the Sci-Fi Channel's going to try.
If you'd said anyone else.
They're going to try to make a Diamond Age miniseries with executive producers George Clooney, Darren Star, and Mark Burnett. Whatever.
All right.
We'll see.
See, Sci-Fi Channel is really hit or miss.
6-hour miniseries. If I'm going to pretty much, I think my plan on this is I'll get like the first episode on BitTorrents or something. And if it's good, I'll buy like the DVD set or Netflix it or something like that. Because they always make DVD sets of these things.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch this shit on TV.
I mean, nowadays, shows like this practically plan.
Especially if it's 6 hours. I mean, if it's a 6-hour miniseries, why would I watch it on TV with all those commercials making it take 8 hours of my time? Or 9 hours of my time?
I'm 50-50 on it. Because on one hand, it seems like there's some talent involved. And I think the people who run the Sci-Fi Channel know that if they screw this up, they'll generally be hated forever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the Sci-Fi
Channel... They screwed
Channel,
up Earthsea, and they're not... Well,
the Sci-Fi Channel is not known for its high-quality original content.
No, not really.
Other than Stargate SG-1, which I think is awesome. However, I want to clarify that by saying that it is not good. It is just awesome.
I'm just generally not a fan of most sci-fi television.
Yeah, says the man who doesn't like Firefly or Battlestar Galactica.
Yep. All right, so we'll see if this is any good, because I really like Diamond Age. So I want to like, well, it's not so much that I want to like, it's I want there to be a video of Diamond Age that I like. And we'll see if this is it or not. I give it a 60% chance of not being painful to watch.
Things of the day. Now, I know last night, I said that I had 2 awesome Japanese video things of the day. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to postpone the super double Trump awesome one till tomorrow, since I think tomorrow's demographic would enjoy it more so than tonight's demographic.
So what are you going to give us?
Well, instead, I'm going to give us something that, well, give you something, since we've both seen it, that while it was an awesome thing of the day, it kind of slipped through the cracks for various reasons. There's this video that some hick somewhere filmed of this snake hanging out. And the snake obviously was up to no good, because there's this little rabbit, and the little rabbit is none too happy with this snake.
Well, if I was a rabbit, I wouldn't be happy with the snake either, because the snake could probably, bite me and all sorts of other nastiness.
So the rabbit runs up in front of the snake, and the snake, goes to bite it. And the rabbit flings itself in a backflip through the air away from the snake, and then charges it.
That's pretty fast to move to avoid a snake bite. Snakes are like...
So
you gotta be quick to avoid that shit.
This is pretty impressive. And this goes on for a while, and the snake can't get a hold of this rabbit. And the rabbit's just bounding around and charging. Finally, the rabbit starts biting the snake and attacking the snake.
Yeah, he goes around to the end of the snake that doesn't have the biting poison on it, and he starts attacking the back of the snake.
Now, at this point, the snake says, fuck this, and starts trying to get away. But the rabbit's not done. The rabbit chases the snake. Just watch the video and see what happens. This is great.
The best part of this video is the hick, because, hicks are hicks. They're not the smartest people, but you could tell this hick is a fun guy.
Yeah, I would hang out with this guy.
Yeah, it'd be fun just to hang around it for a little while.
He's reacting to this in pretty much the same way we would react to it, just in a different accent.
Yeah, cool guy. All right. My thing today, well, you may or may not know about sodium. Now, a lot of times people say sodium, they mean salt.
No, we don't mean that.
We don't mean that. So we mean sodium, the element. Sodium is a metal. You can get it. It's just sodium, Na, on the periodic table. Now, the thing about sodium is that due to its chemical properties, it explodes. Pretty much everything on the left-hand column of the periodic table of elements explodes. The reason for that, and I'm not going to go into all the details of the chemistry, is that the outermost ring of electrons on all of those elements in their default states has 1 electron. Therefore, that 1 electron all on its own in the outermost ring is real easy to take away. In fact, it wants to get away. So if you put anything near some sodium or some cesium or whatever else it may have you,
Francium.
yeah, that can take an electron, such as water. There are lots of chemicals that can take an electron real easily.
Yeah, water, however, really, really likes to take electrons.
Yeah, water works. Some things work better, some things work worse, but water likes to take an electron. So you put some water, here's some sodium. The electron flies off the sodium into the water. In that process, energy is released in great quantity with great rapidness. And that makes explosions.
Now, we've seen a lot of videos of various experiments of this kind taking place.
Yeah, we saw those guys, the British guys on that show with the bathtub, and they put cesium in the bathtub and ran away.
Yeah, we've had at least one or more things of the day involving this exact item.
Yep. Well, this one is incredibly interesting. Basically, in 1947, after the war, they had a bunch of sodium left over. And they couldn't get anyone to take it because no one would ship it because it would explode. So they had big barrels full of sodium. They didn't know what to do with. And there was some water. It was an alkaline lake. So basically on the eastern side of Washington State, closer to Montana and such, or I guess Idaho's in the way, right? It must be. I don't know. Yeah, it's Idaho and then Montana.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Washington, Idaho, Montana. Anyway, way out in eastern Washington State, which is on the west side of the country, there was a lake that was alkaline. There were no fish in the lake. The lake didn't have anything living in it. It was just bad water. So they dropped the sodium into it, a barrel at a time, and it exploded. And someone decided to take a video of it with a 1947 film camera.
Basically, he was a primitive YouTuber.
Yep. And now his video is on Google Video instead of YouTube.
It's fairly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen sodium explode. I mean, at summer camp, we threw a chunk of it into the lake. We would do all kinds of stuff with it. This is the biggest sodium explosion I've ever seen.
So we'd said last week that we were going to review Battle Lore, but I think we're going to wait another week just so I can play the game a few more times before I decide I really don't like the game.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of features of the game we haven't played with. We didn't play with the goblins or the dwarves or the monsters or the war council.
Yeah, though I have a pretty good idea of what kinds of effects those will have on the game.
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea as well. I already played with the goblins, actually, but Rim didn't, so yeah.
Yeah, so we'll wait on that, and we decided instead we'd do a nice little quick game. You see, over our New Year's party, our good friends James and Lisa came up from Texas to spend time with us. And with him, James brought a Blokus, the two-player variant of Blokus.
Travel Blokus.
Effectively, the two-player variant, because two-player normal Blokus is terrible. Basically, you can buy the four-player and the two-player.
Yeah, the default version of Blokus is a four-player game, and you could play with two players, which is kind of sucky. Or you could play with three players, which is really sucky and unplayable. I don't even know why they offer it as an option. And Travel Blokus actually offers a really good two-player experience. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, Blokus, it is a game put out by Strata Gems, Brain-Building Games, and they're really touting it as an award-winning, educational, awesome game. I mean, wasn't it up for a Spiel des Jahres?
Yeah, it was a Spiel des Jahres nominee at some year.
It won the Dr. Toy 100 Best Children's Product of 2003.
You can never easily tell once you see this game why it won so many awards, because it has such a broad appeal.
It won the Oppenheim Toy Portfolio Best Toy Award.
Yeah. It really kind of fits both into that Toys R Us market, but also the
Mensa decided to endorse it too.
I
don't like Mensa so much.
Me either, but also it fits into the German board gamers are also like playing this thing.
Well, the thing is, it's really hard to find a two-player game that's good, and Blokus, at least the two-player variant, definitely fills the role. Now, Blokus is a very, very simple two-play game, but that does not mean that it is a strategically or tactically simple game.
Nope, not at all.
Basically, you will have, we'll talk about the two-player one because they're all effectively the same.
Yep.
Scott and I, there's a little board with a bunch of squares on it. In addition, you're given, each player, a whole bunch of Tetris-like pieces.
They're called pentominoes.
Comprised of various squares and various numbers of squares. You get a whole bunch of them, and you both get the same kinds.
Yeah, so you've got, the standard, the T-shaped piece, the plus piece, the square piece.
The long L, the short L, the really short L.
Yeah, you've got a whole bunch of pieces that are 5 squares large. You've got a few pieces that are 4 squares large. You got like a couple that are 3 squares, like one that's 2 and one that's 1.
Yeah, you have only one piece, which actually comes into play rather significantly.
Yep.
Now, the way the game goes is you take turns, starting from your designated starting position, placing these in a way that they fit on the board. And the rules of placement are very simple. You cannot place a piece so that it goes over another piece.
Obviously, it has to fit on the board in empty squares.
2, outside of your first piece, any additional pieces you play throughout the rest of the game must be diagonally adjacent, so the corners must touch.
Yeah, so if I put down the T, I guess I can't. The corner of the piece that I put down has to touch a corner of the next piece I push down, diagonally speaking.
Now, the third most important rule, and this is where the game is interesting, is that no piece of the same color may be orthogonally adjacent.
Yeah, so you can't have any of your pieces actually touching any of your other pieces. So they'll all be all these diagonal holes all over the place.
Yeah, so say you've got 2 1 pieces, and you want to somehow, even though you can't have those, you want to connect them to each other, and you've got a grid of 9 squares, and the first piece is in the middle. The second piece can only go in the top right, top left, bottom right, or bottom left. Those are the only possible legal placements.
Yep.
And the object of the game is to get as many of your pieces on the board as you can before you run out of legal moves. Your opponent is trying to do the same. Scoring is very, very simple. You get -1 point. You start at 0. You get -1 point for every block that comprises every piece that you still have unplaced at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a square piece and a Tetris T piece left, then I have a score of -8.
Yep.
Additionally, you can get a 5-point bonus if the last piece you play is your smallest one piece.
Now, the reason they have that rule is because the one piece is very useful. Because it is only 1 square large, it's pretty easy to play it at any point in the game. However, there are many situations where you will be able to play the one piece in order to sort of break out and do, add more pieces to the board. So if you keep playing in a fashion in which you never need the one piece to break out, which means it's more difficult for you, and that you can just save that powerful one piece and not actually use it to break out, but just put it at the end, then you get 5 points for doing that.
But at the same time, there might be an incentive to use the one piece early, because there is also a 15-point bonus if you somehow place all of your pieces on the board.
Whoa.
So the maximum possible score is 20. And that is if you place all your pieces on the board and you place the one piece last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you can't put any more pieces on the board, possibly by any amount of rules, that's the game. You're just done and then other people keep putting pieces until no one can put any more pieces legally, and then the game's over.
Now, that's really it. That's the entire game, and you just go back and forth until you both can't place pieces anymore. The 3-player game or the 4-player game are pretty much the same. They just have rules to deal with that. I mean, the travel version of the game, you just play 2 players straight up.
Mm-hmm.
In the full version, to play 2 players, each of you has to use 2 colors. So you have 2 of every piece, just so the board...
I just realized something. There's no reason why we couldn't just cut out a section of the big board in the 4-player version, put those dots on it, and then play it just like the travel version.
You know what? Yeah, not at all. You know what? All we should do is take a marker and mark what the small board would be.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, great.
Yeah. We don't even have to mark up the whole thing, just the corners.
Oh, yeah,
and the dots.
We'll just put little dots, like a little go board or something.
Yeah. So, Blokus fun?
Blokus is incredibly fun, unless you try to play it 3-player, and then it's just annoying.
Yeah, 3-player, because then you actually have to play the 4th player. Everyone takes turns being the 4th player, and the 4th player doesn't count. So it really kind of sucks.
Now, I guess we'll talk about the 2-player game, because it's a lot like all those games you'd play as a kid, like pick up the sticks on a piece of paper, or any of those 2-player games.
I think it's a lot more like Tron and Tetris kind of combined.
No, but see, the way I look at it as the pick up sticks game is that the pick up sticks game is a game of stable and unstable states. And anytime you move, you can put the game into a stable or an unstable state. And in a game, you generally want to put it in a state that prevents the other player from putting it into a state that is desirable to them. And in this game, like, say I'm building toward the center of the board, and Scott is building toward the center of the board. Now I have a choice to jump in aggressively or hold back a little bit. Now, I might jump in aggressively and take control of that part of the board. Or I might jump in aggressively but haphazardly, and then Scott will be able to counterattack and place a piece that blocks all 4 corners or all 3 corners or whatever of the piece I placed.
Yes, like there's a U-shaped piece, right? So let's say Rim puts down his stick piece. It's just 5 squares right in a row. If I put that U piece so that his stick piece goes right into the middle of my U piece, like a cup, like a stick going into a cup, that kind of screws him because now I just cut off the corners of that stick piece, and I've basically prevented him from making any more moves in that direction at all. That's why I feel it's kind of like Tron, because you're sort of drawing this line around your territory, but the line isn't really solid. You've kind of got to, lock the territory in, and then you can use up your part of the board filling it in, and whoever has the biggest area can beat the other guy.
Yep, there is definitely a general strategy of try to wall off an area for yourself, and then at the same time try to get inside of the other person's area to mess up their strategy.
Yeah, what often happens is you'll wall off an area, but not completely, but enough, and you'll have that area semi-walled off. You'll try to break into someone else's area, and you might succeed, but every time you're playing one piece a turn. Everyone is playing one piece a turn. So you often have to decide, all right, I can put a piece here and move in on Rim's area, or Alex sitting next to me, he's going to put a piece in my area. So I can either block him and be defensive or go on the offense against Rim, and I have to figure out which one of those two moves is going to end up with me having the most pieces on the board at the end.
This is definitely one of those minute-to-learn, lifetime-to-master games. I mean, anyone will learn how to play this game in about 2 minutes.
I mean, little kids are playing this game.
Yeah, I could probably teach a monkey to at least play the game without breaking the rules.
It would have to be one of the smarter monkeys, like a chimp, but you could.
Yeah, easily. Despite that, the game does not bog down or become a foregone conclusion at all, at least in all the experience we or many of the other people playing this game have had.
Yeah, I mean, you won't stop in the middle of the game and be like, oh, Rim won. Oh, Scott won.
Yep.
You play it to the end, and then you go,
In fact, one of the more recent 4-player games we played, I was winning. Everyone on the board, except Alex, said, wow, Rim's going to win no matter what. He's put almost all his pieces out. He's got this big walled-off area. And Alex is just being real quiet. And then Alex proceeds to place practically all of his pieces. In fact, I think he did place all of his pieces. Kick our asses into the ground, and none of us saw it coming.
Yeah, I think that was the first time we played with someone who put all the pieces down. It was kind of crazy. We're like, ah, shit, fuck.
Yeah, the game is definitely not easy to be very good at. And the only way to get good at it seems to be is just to play it enough to start recognizing patterns. Like, there are certain configurations that make it very easy for a person to break through. In fact, if you look at a picture of the board, it's pretty obvious that due to the way pieces are allowed to be laid, it is very easy to break into places and very hard to prevent people from doing so.
Yep. It's the thing I like about it is that it feels like it's the same sort of game as Go. With everyone has the same rate of tile placement of pieces. You can put them not anywhere like in Go, but you put them on this board that's a grid, and you're trying to acquire territory and wall the other guy off and such. But you don't have the same sort of suffering you have with Go. It's like even if you're sucking, you're still getting somewhere. You're still feeling good about it. You're having fun. Just not even trying to beat the other people, but just looking for places to put pieces is fun on its own.
This game also has the great benefit that is incredibly quick to play, quick to set up, quick to tear down. You can just sit down and knock off 10 rounds of this without even
the official playing time is 20 minutes, and I think that's laughable. I mean, the playing time is 5 minutes.
Yeah, especially two players who know how to play the game. It's just and the game's over. And then
even then, if the game's over, you feel like playing it again. I mean, we played that 2-player version how many times?
God, over the New Year's party, the game saw pretty much constant play.
Yeah, just people kept playing it. It's like you
keep
lose.
Keep playing.
It's like you play the game, you fill up the board, you dump all the pieces off, and you do it again, and it's just as fun as the last time, perhaps more fun.
Now, the production values of the game are also incredibly high quality. The pieces,
I don't know about that.
Compared to how much it costs and how simple the game is.
The price is right for what you get. I mean, the game is officially $20. We paid $10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the grid, I mean, it's a cheap plastic grid, but it has ridges, and the pieces have indentations in them. So the pieces just lock in.
Yep.
Perfectly. They just fit.
And they're nice plastic translucent pieces. You can tell the colors apart real easily.
Yep, everything's very uniform.
They feel really nice. The thing is, for an abstract game, usually a lot of people, like the super gamers, they like to have, like the fancy wooden piece and stuff. That's why you'll see a lot of these abstract games an abstract game is a game that doesn't have a theme. Like Ticket to Ride has a theme. It's trains. Puerto Rico has a theme. It's people trading goods in Puerto Rico. Blokus doesn't have a theme. It's squares.
See, I don't know.
Liar's Dice doesn't have a theme. It's just dice.
When a game gets abstract enough, I actually enjoy it more if it doesn't have a theme. Because
Yeah,
then
well,
I don't feel bound by the theme.
Well, that's the definition of an abstract game. It's just games without a theme. I mean,
Yeah.
if you took Puerto Rico and you just changed it to be, brown discs and, yellow wooden bits, that would be considered an abstract game.
Yeah, except the thing is, well, the
thing is-
gameplay itself, like this game doesn't have a real-world analog. Well, Puerto Rico very easily has a real-world analog.
Yep.
Puerto Rico, it's obvious. You build buildings. It makes sense mechanically.
Yep. I mean, like, chess is considered to be an abstract game, even though there is a theme of knights and kings and things, because the gameplay style is abstract.
Yes, but chess is less abstract feeling than Blokus.
It is. However, like I was saying, gamers, the super gamers, they tend to like the abstract games to have higher production values than the themed games. It's because the game is abstract, they feel sometimes that, since it's just simple pieces, why not make them real fancy? Because, then they put them out as, like, display pieces.
See, I'm hit and miss
stuff.
on that. I mean, if I were hosting a symposium, I suppose I would like a really fancy thing, but the cheap-looking nature of the game, coupled with the fact that while it may look cheap, it's functionally perfect, really is conducive to just knocking the game out, playing it, whatever.
Yep. The thing is, a lot of people, I know some people, they buy abstract games because they look pretty, and they'll just leave them out on a table as sort of like a decoration. Like some people leave a chess set just lying out.
Yeah.
This is not a game you can do that with. This is a game that for playing.
No.
They
actually,
might one day make a version of Blokus that is like fancy wooden Blokus.
We should get a chess set or something and leave it out and have an ongoing game.
Yeah, but I don't like chess.
Well, I don't like chess that much either, but I enjoy playing it.
I don't really enjoy playing it that much.
Nah.
I mean, it's all right, but
Maybe we could do that with some other game.
maybe we
But
could.
anyway, I digress. The other nice thing about this game is that because it's so simply done, the pieces are super bright, super contrasting. So if you're sitting there playing, you can very, very readily just glance at the board and all of your abstract thinking comes together real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot more time thinking in this game than other people. That's just because.
God damn it, Scott spends too much time
Well,
thinking.
I think the thing is, in this game, you could take your turn in like less than 30 seconds easily. And I actually sometimes spend.
Your turn shouldn't take more than 10 seconds in this game.
Yeah, I actually sometimes spend maybe a minute thinking about what I'm going to do on my turn just because I'm trying real hard. But I still not winning so much.
See, this game is definitely the main skills you need are the ability to put forth abstract predictions in an unpredictable board based on mathematical probabilities. You definitely need to have a good sense of spatial relationships.
I think that's the number one thing you need.
I don't know. I think it's a mix of the two because even if you have a good sense of the spatial relationships, if you can't predict where other people are going to want to go.
Yeah, I didn't say it's the only thing. It's just the number one thing.
Yeah. But the problem here is that people like Scott can sit there forever holding pieces over the board and rotating them around.
Yeah, well, see, even if you let me spend time doing that, it's not going to help that much because you still need to look turns and turns in advance, which I don't do at all.
See, I do that very much.
I just look at the current turn because I can't be bothered.
But therein lies the one problem with this game. If you are not of the Bevagung school of gaming, and you let people take as long as they want on your turn, you will run into people with this game who will sit there and brute force the best possible moves.
Yeah, they'll look at every single piece they have, and they'll figure out every possible place they can put those pieces, and then they'll figure out what everyone else is going to do on their turn if they do each and every move, and then they'll make the best move. If people are taking more, people are taking more than a minute on their turn, you really just say, all right, take your turn. It's time's up, or else this game becomes unfun as people sit around going, eh.
Yep,
But
plus you'll tax your brain a lot more if you force yourself to think quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, that's true for any game of perfect information, and, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, well, I'm very much of the mind that when games are perfect information, you generally should force people to take their turn more quickly, and also force yourself to take your turn more quickly. You'll get smarter quicker.
Yeah, just go, if don't feel bad if you just made a move and you're not sure if that's the best move. Just go with your instinct. And then over time, just keep playing it and your instinct will change to do something smarter next time.
Yeah, I mean, Scott and I and a lot of our friends, just because we've played so many of these board games, it gets to the point with a lot of these games, or even with games that are similar to games we've played, where I'll make a move without a lot of thought, and I'll feel like it was a really good move, but I won't immediately be able to say why. And then 5 minutes later, well after my turn, I'll realize that it was a good move.
And then you'll come back and say, oh, did you see that move I made 5 turns ago? I made that one because blah, 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 blah. Look how smart I was. I thought of why it was smart afterwards, but I'm going to pretend like I knew why it was smart before I did it. Ha.
Well, with most games, you do plan ahead like that. Just you do it quickly. But you can get an instinct where there will be certain situations where you'll see a pattern arising. But
if I'm making funny, you're not supposed to just start talking about something else. That's so fair. You can't do that.
Because I'm like a duck.
What? Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, once you figure a game out, that doesn't have to be in Tigris and Euphrates anymore. I know what I'm doing, straight up, because we played the game so much.
Yep.
But when we first started playing Tigris and Euphrates, because we'd played so many abstract games, I'd see patterns that seemed like they were good patterns, but I wasn't sure why. Like certain checkerboard configurations of red and black seemed really, really powerful, and they worked really, really well. Or certain placements always seemed to win the game, and certain uses of disasters always seemed to be much better than other ones. And then as we played the game more, I figured out why those patterns worked, and then I was able to use them even more effectively. But by forcing yourself to take your turn more quickly, you'll start to get the sense of these patterns more readily in other games you play.
Yep. I think the biggest thing in Blokus that I've still got to try to get down is early on in the game when you can make just about any move you want. Those are some of the most important moves in the game, but you also have the least information with which to make those moves. Because especially, if you're going first, it's like what piece do you put down first?
Yes, the game progresses from most freedom, least information to most information, least freedom.
Yep. The other thing is
that's a common game progression.
I think going first has the tiniest advantage.
I think it does, especially in the 4-player game. Going early has a slight advantage.
Yeah, in the 2-player game, going first doesn't buy you that much.
In fact, it might be possible that going first is not actually an advantage in 2-player against a skilled player.
Yep.
I'm not sure yet. I got to play the game more.
Yeah, it could be like Othello, where it doesn't matter if you go first or second.
Now, having played the game enough, and especially having done well in the last few games, I think I figured out a basic and somewhat counterintuitive strategy.
All right, let's hear your fancy strategy.
All right. Now, I've cemented this strategy a little bit, having now actually looked at the instruction book and actually looked at the back of the board, and I noticed that all the examples do this too. It seems like everyone's initial idea, especially in the 4-player game, is to try to wall off an area that they generally have a decent amount of control over, and then try to build inside that area later. Mm-hmm. After they've built to the extent of their borders.
That's what I've done, and I'm beginning to think it's a better idea to build in that area a little bit earlier.
Here's why, in my opinion, that idea fails. One, you've walled off an area, but you won't be able to fully deny all other players access to that area. Mm-hmm. Two, you'll have wasted some of your useful pieces walling that area off. Mm-hmm. Three, and this is the part that took me a while to realize, if you've walled off an area, you won't be able to make very efficient use of it because it is very difficult to place any significant number of your pieces anywhere near each other due to the orthogonal rules.
Yep.
So no matter how big of an area you wall off, you're going to waste most of that space, and people are going to run in anyway. A much better strategy is to spider off with long, thin chains in every possible direction you can. That way you always have a front of expansion. And it's very easy to expand inside of other players' domains. In fact...
See, the thing is, if everyone does that, right? I mean, that strategy kind of works because other people are walling off these areas, and you can just reach for the other players' areas and try to infiltrate them. What if everyone's trying to reach into everyone else's area? Then you just sort of get at these crazy things going everywhere, and it's just going to become... There's pieces all over the place. Where am I going to fit another one?
Yes, and you know what? I think that among 4 advanced players... almost every game will look like that. I don't think the walled garden strategy works at all.
Yeah, I do agree that when you do manage to wall off a garden and begin filling it with pieces, it is very difficult to efficiently fill it with as many of your pieces as possible.
Also,
because number one, controlling the shape of the garden is rather difficult because that is just a circumstance of the way in which you walled it off. And two, because you don't have a lot of time to pick up all your pieces and figure out the most efficient way to lay all of them out within the area. And three, because you can only put one in your area at a time, and by the time you're, done filling up the area, someone might have put something in there. And then
now,
you're screwed.
There's more than that. I don't think it's just that someone might fill in the area. I think it's
Someone
practically
will.
a foregone conclusion that someone else is going to get into your area and use it more efficiently than you will.
Yep.
More importantly, You feel like your walled garden is safe, so you can wait and fill it in later.
It's
Yet,
not.
if you go into someone else's area, it's even safer, counterintuitively, because they are not free to place their pieces within their own area because they're constrained by the orthogonal placement rules.
Mm-hmm.
So you can build into someone's area and then ignore that because they cannot place a piece that will block you. And then you fill that in at the end. And then you work on infiltrating someone else's area. And the moment you get your in, you don't bother building there anymore because there's nothing they can do to stop you. And you go in every direction you can where someone can't stop you. And you only fill in the places where someone can stop you when you don't have any other places to expand.
Yep. That definitely is a sound strategy.
Yeah, and just looking at all the examples I've seen of perfectly filled boards and victory conditions and people who have placed all their pieces, I have not seen a substantial victory or a victory that looked like it was against other people who were equally intelligent that involved any sort of walled garden.
Yep. I mean, I'm looking at this completely filled board, and it seems like everyone... It's sort of like if you cut the board in half diagonally, right? Then, like, blue will take up, all their pieces are in, like, the bottom right half. And red is in the top right half. And yellow is in the bottom left, and green is in the top left, And you sort of need half the board, diagonally speaking, to fit all your pieces. So... And usually someone from another area of the board is going to come in to, one of the areas, and then you're going to go into someone else's, and that's how it's going to be. But you can still fit your pieces because the way the rules are for placing them. As long as you place them in ways in which they're very close. It's like you got to be real snug if you want to fit as many as possible.
Yeah, the 4 players filling the board thing, I don't think can happen among 4 players. I think that can only happen with 1 player playing the brain teaser variant.
Yep, I think that's also true.
Unless 4 players are trying.
Yeah.
But even that's just not going to happen.
No, but I think the idea, though, is if you want to fit more pieces in, you want to be real snug right up against people. Plus, that if you're right up against other people's pieces, that usually hurts them a lot because it makes them much more difficult for them to play anything.
Doesn't always hurt as much as you'd think. Because
not always.
Right up next to them are the places where they couldn't place anyway.
Yes, but if you're right up next to them on the edges.
See, I think, in general, it looks like most of the people we've played with, whenever they see an opportunity to screw another player, they'll always take it, assuming that will benefit them. And I think because there are often times where you don't even want to worry about what the other player is doing because you're going to get much more benefit from just building your own empire and letting them jump through because the pieces you're going to have to spend to block them are only going to delay them and you're going to waste useful pieces.
Yeah, it's always a question when attacking is, okay, if I attack, I'm going to use this piece to attack them. Maybe while that piece is the best for attacking, maybe that piece is not the best for efficient placement of all my tiles. So maybe I should play something else instead of attacking, or do a lighter attack with a more efficient piece, or something like that.
So I suppose, considering that we've spent quite a while talking about the strategy of Blokus, one of the probably the simplest game we own.
Perhaps.
At least in terms of play.
Yeah, we don't have Candyland.
No.
We should get it, though. I think I own Yahtzee, technically.
Yeah. However, Yahtzee, you have to know a little bit about statistics.
A little bit, yeah. I like Yahtzee, though.
But despite how simple this game is, we've spent quite a while talking about the deep strategic and tactical elements of it.
Even though it's just putting Tetris pieces on a board.
So I think I can say with certainty that the vast majority of gamers will like this game. There's no reason not to buy this game.
The vast majority of non-gamers will like this game.
Yeah, this is a great gift for kids. This is a great gift for anyone.
Yeah, give it to your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. Just go buy a copy of Blokus, and the next time you visit your family, bring it along, and they'll totally play it with you. Because even if they totally hate it, you only took up 10 minutes of their time. It's a lot easier to get someone to play Blokus for 10 minutes than it is to get them to play something else, I mean, even Ticket to Ride, which goes over real well with families and such, it takes a while to set it up, and it takes a while to teach. Blokus takes no time. It's like, bam, let's go. Rock and roll. Block and roll.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.